Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I recorded a roughly 40-minute interview with Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura where we talked about a wide range of subjects and topics, and we discussed anything and everything. This interview was recorded the day before the candidates started, so it was on April 3rd, 2024. I'm uploading this probably on April 28th or 29th, and so obviously the world has changed a bit since we recorded this interview. And I'm obviously right now in Amsterdam, in case the background looks different, but I will be back home very, very soon. In the meantime, enjoy this interview. Hi, I'm GothamChess, and I'm here with
Grandmaster Hikaru.
Yeah, speaking of Hikaru, can we just start on that note? I want to know your 100% opinion, so no BS, no clips out of context. Do you think I have what it takes to be a Grandmaster?
In terms of general knowledge, absolutely. I think one thing that's very tricky, though, is the mental aspect. And a lot of people don't understand how important of a role that plays. And I think for you, you need to use that Shura mentality, the personality, the fact that I think people are in awe of you to your advantage. I don't think you do that enough. I think you have too many doubts, and mentally you're you're not quite there. So it's possible, but I would also say it's much more difficult now than say 10 years ago when you were up and coming. Kids are much better, so many more resources, and the openings probably that you played back then, they're not as sharp and they're not as cutting edge as they were back then. So it'd be tough, but in general, yes, you do have the ability.
It does seem like nowadays you have to learn the main stuff. You have to learn e5, c5. The pawns don't go in the 6th rank anymore. You can't really... And with white, you have to be flexible and you have to just...
Yeah, I think you have to be a more universal player now than in the past. I think when I look back to becoming a Grandmaster, I would say probably 90% of the games I played were just Najdorfs. I played Sicilian, Najdorf, that was about it. With white, I mean, I did play e4 and d4, but for example, I did not play the English at all. So my repertoire was much narrower back then, and I think that now you have to basically play everything. It's just a completely different ball game than it was back then. Let me give you another example. So when I was growing up, and of course this also is completely different, but when I grew up playing on the Internet Chess Club, I played even less openings back then, but I would play blitz games. I'd play my main openings, and then after the games would finish, or after I played for 5 hours, I'd go download the games, look at them in ChessBase, and figure out where I made mistakes. And that was very, very beneficial, but nowadays all the games are saved. So if you play on chess.com, first of all, you can download them, but also when you play in Title Tuesday or other events, they're out there for everybody to see. So that's one way that I learned a lot. And it's not applicable in the modern world. It just doesn't work because everybody will see your games, and there's no benefit to it. So it's almost like you have to hide your openings and find a way to play better, unless I guess you want to be like Kramnik and play on a random account in Title Tuesday.
Yeah, that's a good segue. The whole Kramnik saga is super weird. You're a top player. You're obviously an insider, so you're privy to certain conversations that go on behind the scenes. But I'll tell you my perspective. Obviously, Kramnik is a legend of the game. So growing up, I knew of his match with Kasparov. I think people at some point, some interview said Kramnik made more inputs to modern theory than almost anybody. That was something that I read. Then he had the candidates tournament where he was just on a crusade in the postmortems, where he was leading, but then all his postmortems were no, I was completely lenient, and then there's the very funny clip of Ding, Kramnik talked for 2 minutes, and she looks at Ding and goes, "Do you agree?" And Ding's like, "No." Yeah. And it's just and now we have kind of modern day Kramnik. And what was weird in the beginning is that I think just like anything in life, nothing is 100% one way or another. I listen to Kramnik, and I play 2400s on chess.com, and I'm like, they're cheating. There's just no way, right? Because if I played that 2400 in 3-0, I would crush them. I'm 2800 blitz. And in Title Tuesday, they're crushing me. And it's a really weird feeling. And so I have to sit there and go, is it the 3+1? Is it really that 1 second of increment that increases the level so much? I don't know. So as a spectator, my Kramnik journey was, okay, he makes some fair points, but I don't agree with everything. But here we are sitting, it's April 3rd, 2024, and just a couple of hours ago, chess.com put out that based on essentially the content and the findings of this YouTuber, whose name is Galchenko, basically discovered that Kramnik was logging into Dennis Hizmatulin's chess.com account and playing games pretending to be him.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, I think I think the problem in general, I would say, with account sharing or various forms of cheating is they're all somewhat different. And you know, for example, like if Magnus were to log on a random account and play some casual games, that's
did
not
that.
right. That's not right.
Yeah.
It's not right. But it's not really. It doesn't really have any major impact overall, I would say. Whereas when you start doing that in a prize money event, it's completely different for many reasons. First of all, because potentially you're robbing people of a chance to earn money. But then secondly, and this is where I find the whole thing very, very strange, is that with Kramnik, he's saying you play on an account which is similar rating to your own, and that's missing the. First of all, it's missing the whole psychological point of view. So, for example, if Magnus could play on a random account, or I could play on a random account in a Title Tuesday, I'm pretty sure we would actually score much better than we do, because people would not be giving us respect, they would not be as focused whatsoever, and they'd play completely differently, stylistically. And so when Kramnik talks about the rating, sure, maybe the rating is roughly the same as that of Hizmatulin, but the quality of play is completely different. Kramnik, of course, former world champion, great player. Hizmatulin, very strong, by the way. Not a weak player by any stretch of the imagination, but not on that same level. And so from the psychological standpoint, the respect that is afforded to Kramnik playing on his main account and how serious people are going to be about it is completely different. So I found it very odd that he seemed to insinuate that he hasn't done anything wrong or he's gaining research or methods. I don't think anybody should stand for that, especially when potentially you're robbing people of the opportunity to earn a living from a tournament like Title Tuesday.
Yeah, I suppose I like to sometimes internally play devil's advocate in these situations and sort of say, well, you know, let's say Kramnik didn't actually win any money in these events. Was it really that heinous and that serious of an infraction? Of course, it's against the rules and you should get in trouble, no question. But more than anything, it was just weird. Like, did he do it because he wanted to see whether people cheat more against him? Was that the approach? Or,
well, I mean,
less against him?
Obviously, neither of us knows exactly what was in his mind, but I think probably he's working from a certain truth in his mind, which is that people cheat more against him. I mean, I think that's very clear that he thinks that people cheat more against him than anybody else. And so I think he thought that if he plays on a random account, he'll see whether he scores better or scores worse, and no harm, no foul. But again, I really think that misses the point, because the fact of the matter is that the results are going to be completely tainted, because when someone knows they're playing against myself or Kramnik or Magnus or whomever it is, they're going to play differently than if they think they're playing against a random 2600 GM. There's just no doubt about that. And like I would give another example. So I play this guy Kriar, Nicholas Theodorou, a lot online, and I can tell when I play against him, he's really excited. He's up for the games. He wants to play his best chess. And then I see him play some other random like 2900 guy, and he's playing horrible chess. Now it's not because he's cheating. It's because the fact is he's much more motivated to play against me than he is to play against just a random grandmaster. So I think in general, Kramnik's working with a bias, and I mean, I think the bias is wrong to begin with, but he's working with that as the truth to begin with, and I think that's the reason he did it. You know,
you've definitely had to go through this process. I've had to go through this process over the last few years, but I'd like for you to elaborate a little bit more on it, because you're obviously an elite player. I would say that of all the top 10, top 20 grandmasters of the last 10, 15 years, you have played online more than any of them. It's probably not even close. Like maybe Jan is second. I don't know. I don't even know who plays.
Him or maybe MVL, because MVL played a lot some years back.
But you've definitely had to go through the process of going like, online and offline is very different. And also the online strength might not even reflect the over-the-board strength, right? Like you've definitely played against people and you've been like, there's no way this guy's this good. Like he's not playing fairly. But you've had to adapt over the last few years to go, no, there really is a chance. And like the over-the-board will... So can you just speak about that a little bit? Because I've had that.
Yeah, I mean, so I think to start with, the first time that I started feeling like I'm talking about over the board here very specifically, was around 2018. Up to that point, I would say roughly like when I started playing the top level events, and also strong opens to around like 2010 till about 2018, I did very well. Like Gibraltar, for example, I won that tournament I think 5 times. I was very good at beating lower rated players, with white or black even, and it wasn't really much of a struggle, I would say. But around 2017, 2018-ish, it became much harder. And I think it was a 2018 event at Gibraltar where I drew my first game with black against somebody who I think was like 2500-ish, maybe a little bit below. And then the second game I have white against this 2480 IM from Spain. And I played a Catalan line, and he played like 25 moves, perfect chess. Couldn't get anything, game was a draw. And this was me as like a 2770 player playing against someone who's 2480. And So for over the board, sometime around then, I felt this big shift where it wasn't as easy to beat the lower rated players. And I think that's also played a large part in terms of the rating deflation that we've seen, where top players, when they play Swiss events, they tend to lose a lot of rating points. It seems to be natural now. You just can't beat the lower rated players the way you once could. So I would say around that time is when I first had this realization that players who are lower rated are playing better than you would kind of expect, or I would expect based on my history of the previous decade. So now if we fast forward to online, I think that online had its big moment during the pandemic around 2019, 2020, when sort of, first of all, everybody was stuck at home. So people did not have the chance to play over the board. They had to play online. And when people had to play online, that meant that everybody was playing, and it became sort of the hip thing to do. Obviously, you kind of were forced to do it because there were no tournaments, but everybody was playing online. I think that changed the perception a lot, because prior to that, it wasn't viewed as something super important. Like, you just go online, play some blitz games for fun. No real money tournaments. None of these things existed back then. So the world changed, and I think because of that, once it became the standard where these kids were playing online all the time, everybody's level increased immensely. And frankly, I would say that chess, unfortunately, if you don't happen to come from a very privileged background, it's very hard to play tournaments. Having to spend money traveling, hotel rooms, paying entry fees, in many cases not winning prize money even if you do well. It's very cost prohibitive, especially for like the parents of these young kids. So when they go online and they start playing over and over and over again, they actually get to a much higher level than you see reflected in their over the board the rating, or if they've even played over the board to begin with. And so I think that's one of those things that I've had to really get used to, because again, and like before 2018 even over the board, it's like all these kids are weak, whatever, you can win games. Yeah. But I've also seen it in a lot of the kids that I've played against over the years. So for example, if you look at Buddy Pranav from India, I think his first name is, I think it's V. I don't know exactly what it is technically.
I also don't remember. Isn't it Pranav Anand? Or is it V
I think
Pranav?
that's a different. Pranav Anand, I think it's a different one. I think there are a couple of them.
Oh yeah, right. V Pranav. Okay.
Yeah, but I know it's V Pranav. I know
Yes,
that much
yes,
because I played
yes,
him.
yes.
I played him in the Qatar Masters last year. But like when I played him, I want to say around 2019, 2020, he was a good player. He was like an IM level player, maybe 24, 24-20, 24-30, I think. I mean, I might have the numbers wrong, but not someone who's a grandmaster yet. But when I played him over and over again, it gave him immense experience. Like, he gets to play against one of the best blitz players in the world, and so it improves his level naturally. And then after the pandemic, of course, his rating shot up immediately to close to 2,600. And to me, it was no surprise, because I'd played him so many times online. I'd seen the whole progression. Because I think when I first played him in like 2019, I don't want to like be disrespectful. I felt like I could just do this, everything, and just win the game. Maybe one moment I have to pay attention, but that's it. As opposed to like nowadays when I play him even in Title Tuesday, I have to pay attention all the time. It's not that easy. So I think that really the world of chess changed a lot, and also the fact that the competition became so strong online between myself, Magnus, and others. These kids are improving at a much quicker rate than they ever did before. And even quite recently, I played the German Bundesliga, and I was talking with Shakran Mamdigarov, who's actually also here as a second for Abasov, and he was basically raving about this Turkish kid, Yildiz Khan Erdogmas, and saying how even when he plays him in blitz, like he's losing games. Like he's losing games to a 12-year-old kid, and he's kind of shocked by it. This is over the board, by the way. But they're like training, and so it's very tough to sort of accept that, because you feel like, the world of chess can't change that much. But I think it is a very, very different world than it was before the pandemic, and I think you're going to see more and more of these kids getting good, and it's going to be very clear that just the way we viewed it is different than it was 5 years ago.
Speaking of the chess world changing, you've been elite for a long time. I think there's only been a pretty big shift of the amount of input and the amount of influence you could have on the way chess changes. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, probably before pandemic, elite players were playing the tournaments that were organized for them, and that was it. Mm-hmm. If you didn't play, I have no idea really what you did. Maybe you were still a professional, you played in Bundesliga, maybe you made courses, but that wasn't even that popular. Maybe you were a trainer. But now, do you feel you have like a greater role potentially and influence in actually changing how chess will look in the next 5 to 10 years? Or is it over-exaggerated?
I mean, I like to think I've already made the biggest contribution I can make. I mean, I've helped a lot of other content creators. I mean, I'm very proud of you, of course, for all the success you've had, for helping Botez as well in the early days. But from a pure chess standpoint, I'm very proud of the fact that I've played so many of these kids in Blitz online, that I've given them that opportunity to play against one of the best players in the world, and I think it does help them with their game. I think the best example of it is actually Noterbeck. I'm pretty sure I played him a lot more than I think I have, because I think I played him on one of his one of the anonymous accounts back when he was a young kid, before he was like this known superstar. But I like to think that having played against all these kids that I've contributed, and I've moved the game forward, because I do think some of these kids are going to potentially be the next world champion.
Right.
When you look forward, maybe the next world champion, I don't know about that, but if you look like 5-10 years down the road, I'm pretty confident that at least one of the kids that I played against will be playing in a world championship match. So I'm very, very happy with that contribution. I think it's also, by being one of the best players playing against these kids, their level gets better. They'll be able to pass that on to future generations. And so I actually feel like I've already made my biggest contribution in a way. You know, with all the streaming stuff that has happened too, I think in the early days, like all of us, we were doing it because the passion was very, very important. I think that, you know, for myself, one of the great things with having played pro chess for so long is I'd been in it so long, I was a little bit disappointed, a little bit unhappy with my results, especially towards the end of 2018. And having the opportunity to find something like streaming where I could bring chess to a bigger audience really sort of gave me a spark and brought me back to life to some degree. Because I felt that I was sharing it with more than myself. And I think a lot of people forget that in chess, it's a very lonely world. It's essentially, you go to a tournament, you play, that's it. There's no one to really support you. Maybe you have like one or two family members with you, which definitely helps. But it's not the same thing as when you feel like having like hundreds of people or thousands of people following your games. And even if they're not necessarily rooting for you, you feel like it's something bigger than just yourself. And I feel like for me, from a very early age in chess, I always felt like it should be bigger. And I always felt like you go play this great game, or Magnus wins some amazing endgame or something. It's like you expect these fans to be cheering, and you think it's like, wow, it's the greatest thing you've ever seen. But then it's just you celebrate, that's it, and there's nothing more to it. So I think streaming definitely helped me a lot to get to where I am today with my chess. Because without that, I think there's a very good chance I wouldn't be in the chess world today, if not for the pandemic and everything that transpired after.
Which is wild, because you had a Red Bull sponsorship. Like, how did that? And I mean, we know the Magnus G-Star photos. Like, what was that, 2016?
That was a long time ago. I think that started around like 2014 maybe, and lasted till about 2019.
How did that happen? Like, just how did that? People probably don't even know that. Like, a Red Bull sponsorship is a huge deal.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Bull sponsorship sort of came about because they were looking at various sports. They were looking actually at like social media interaction and something that just made sense. And for chess, again, a sport where games can go very long and you need to have energy, I think they just thought it made sense as a marketing thing. And I think I actually know, because they told me this, but even in like 2019, I think I had like the fourth most social media impressions out of any of the athletes they sponsored. So
wow.
Even though chess wasn't where it is today, it was still, I mean, a lot of people were following.
Did they ever come back with an offer? now that it's exploded?
No. They never did. I mean, I think they kind of moved on. Also, a lot of people I dealt with, they sort of left the company as well. But I think for me too, I remember when they effectively dropped me around 2019, I felt very much it was because my results weren't as good. I was sort of following the world rankings, and I think that for myself, when I went and won that U.S. championship and started at least trying to get back up there, it was sort of very good motivation to feel like they don't believe in me, and I can try and go for bigger things.
One thing I wanted to ask, not to circle back to, let's say, a negative topic, but I really was kind of taken aback by the approach that Vladimir Kramnik took to talking about your statistics on chess.com, while then following up that he's not accusing you of anything. It's like this very fascinating thing. And then, of course, he started talking about some of the youngsters, and he started talking about just a who's who of people. So what was that like for you? And have you been in situations in the past where people are like, Hikaru's not, he must be cheating, like he can't be that good? Like, is that...
Well, I mean, the first point, which I've mentioned a couple of times, even if it's perhaps not public knowledge, is that when I beat Daniil Dubov in the Chess Champions Tour semifinal, I believe that was in 2020, he basically went and accused me of cheating privately. I know this through people that I've spoken to.
I think you've talked about that at least like on stream. Yeah, like
I've spoken about it on stream. Yes. I mean, I think what I would say, and this is very important.
Wait, can I just what in like
You want me to get back to Kramnik?
No. I'm wondering when you say accuse, right? Like, is it he's cheating, or is it? Can you guys like keep a closer eye on him? Like,
well, he went to FIDE and asked them to investigate the games that I played against him.
Okay.
So.
Wow. So I guess some guys have just been more suspicious for a long time.
Yeah, so like I mean that's the only clear-cut example that I can think of prior to the whole Kramnik thing. I mean, again, I've never heard it, but of course you never really know what the situation is, because you could also look the other way, where if we look at the case of Hans Niemann very specifically, and with Hans, there were many top players talking about it. I mean, basically everybody that I spoke to amongst the top grandmasters, it was at the top of their list of things they wanted to talk about. And yet Hans, I mean, at least he claims, he never had heard any of this. So you never really know what the reality is. I think there's a very good chance that Hans, somehow this word never got back to Hans, that all these top players were talking about him. And I think you could make the same thing for me. Maybe like when Eric Hansen says that all these players are accusing me of cheating, or there are rumors about it behind the scenes, there's a good chance it just never got back to me. So it's very hard to know what the reality is. But I was really surprised by the Kramnik thing for a couple of reasons. First of all, Kramnik is somebody that I played against many times. And I remember at the 2009 London Chess Classic, I think it was 2009. It was, I think, the first time that I played him in a classical game. We played a Rogozin, and it was an exciting game, ended in a draw, and I really enjoyed playing against him. I enjoyed the postmortem. It was just a very, very pleasant experience for me to play against someone so great and have that opportunity. And even if you fast forward, like I played him many, many more times after that. We played in many of the same events, had many great games. There were games that he won, games that I won. I remember even in Dortmund when I played him in this King's Indian game. I think it was 2014 when he won. In the last round, I beat him with the black pieces, and I think we analyzed for over an hour at the board. Right. Like, it was a very, very long post-mortem, and so I always viewed him as a colleague, probably one of the people that I most enjoyed playing against, or even just talking to after the games, just because of the wealth of experience and the sort of passion he had for the game. And so from my standpoint, I was just very confused by it, because, for example, I would never go and say, like, okay, like Nepo, for example, or Fabiano, like, these are your colleagues, these are people on the same level as you. Like, again, I'm not going to pretend that I haven't gotten very suspicious of people after losing a match or losing a couple of games. I think every top player has done that at some point in their career. But with your colleagues directly, it was very, very shocking. And I would also say that I think it's very, at least in my mind, it's very clear that I played much worse in the Chess Champions Tour here in Toronto in December than I've played almost any other tournament in recent history, because I was just so shocked by the whole thing. It just made no sense whatsoever, like what exactly was going on. And I mean, obviously, like, I know I'm not cheating, and I think people at home could also see, because I'm playing all these games live on stream. But it was just very, very surprising to see. And I mean, whether you can say it's an accusation, whether you want to say that he's just asking the games be investigated, at the end of the day. And I think this is a very important distinction, and I'm going to refer to Hans once again, is that a lot of the times when top players were talking about Hans, they would look at a game, they would say there's this move or that move. It was very much about the games themselves. It was not a situation where it's like, okay, it's just a streak, or, can't have a rating this high. It was based on something about the actual games themselves. Now, of course, we'll never know. I mean, we'll never know whether he did or he didn't. That's just the reality of the situation.
Over the board specifically, I guess. But
well, I mean,
yeah, I guess the report was like it was online, but theoretically it's, okay.
But I'm saying, like, it was based around the games. Yeah. Like, and so, like, for example, if Kramnik were to, like, come to me and say, like, okay, you played this move or you played that move, like, he gives a specific instance in the game, and he were to ask me to explain the move, like, I would actually explain the move. Like, what was my thought process? Why did I play that move? Like, and that's something that's based on the actual content, instead of simply making a claim that really there's nothing else to it other than you're saying someone can't do that. And so for me, it was very, very disappointing to see. At the same time, I'd also say things like that do have to be dealt with very, very quickly. Like, as soon as I saw that tweet, I think it was, I don't know if it was by Kramnik or someone else, the initial one, but as soon as I saw that, I felt like I have to take some action, because when you let things like that swell to some point, I think it becomes, like a cancerous growth. It's something that's just going to keep building, and you really have to try and stop it before it gets completely out of control. And of course, it ended up getting out of control anyway, but it's just the reality.
It's still out of control. I mean, it's
still... Yeah, I mean, I think most people are aware of the reality at this point. I mean, also, I find it very sad, because, like, when I see Kramnik play Entitled Tuesdays, he does exactly as I would expect him to do. There are many events where he's 4 out of 4, 5 out of 5. He's in the running. So he's still a very strong player. I mean, I know a lot of people want to say that he's a terrible player, or he's washed, or this or that. But, I mean, he remains very strong. He's not a weak player. But he usually loses in the later rounds against the best players in the event, who not only are very strong, but they have very good mouse skills. Their anticipation is better. And so I feel like his results are actually reflective of the fact that there is very little cheating. Now, I'm not going to say there's no cheating. I think, first of all, I don't believe that. I'm sure there probably are like 1 or 2 people who might be slipping through the cracks. But at the end of the day, when you go and you accuse everybody of cheating, it also sort of muddies the waters. And I don't think that it's for the better. It's definitely not for the better. Because now I would say, like, if you make an accusation of cheating, like Kramnik tomorrow, he might find someone who's cheating. But if he says it, everyone's going to just disregard it because, of course, he's already shown that he's just going to accuse anybody of cheating.
I think Kramnik's, there's basically two approaches. Like, I've talked to all the necessary parties about this, and it seems like the two approaches are Kramnik is accuse 10 people if one is guilty, and then just somehow, you caught him. But 9 are now under fire too. Whereas chess.com, and this was really interesting because I did kind of confront them on this, and they brought up a good point. Like, I said, hey, if in a Title Tuesday a 3,000 rated grandmaster cheats in 3 games once, that's almost unfindable. And they said, right, but who cheats only once? Like, which athletes cheat only once? They'll cheat for a season.
Yes.
They'll cheat. And that kind of changed my perspective. Like, of course there's no way to not even catch, but to make a decision, right, ultimately. Like, now people are saying, well, Kramnik played those games on that account and chess.com didn't flag them. But that's ridiculous. I mean, like,
Well, it's a whole different issue. But actually, on that issue, like, the only way they could probably flag it is if they were, like, tracking the IP. But that's also a big problem because I was thinking about that recently. Like, people are probably thinking, like, how did they not see that he was playing Title Tuesday from a different IP? And at the end of the day, I don't think you can even really do that, even if you try to automate it. Because I was thinking about people like Noterbeck or Nihal, who are probably playing from a different country every single Title Tuesday. So it's not realistic, I think, from a technical standpoint. But yeah, ultimately, as far as cheating goes, like, what is the reason for it? I think the notion that someone's going to cheat for one move in an individual game is just absurd.
Yeah.
Now, I won't say that at this point someone might not try and do that against Kramnik. Like, I do think someone might try and do that against him just because.
I mean, he has played some games in the last few weeks against 2700s, and I'm looking at these games like, how did they beat Kramnik like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's definitely, like, there is possibly the motivation there, but in general, if someone's going to cheat, they're going to do it to win. That's just the reality. They're not going to do it to just because. Now, of course, like, I'm talking about, like, prize money events, not casual games. So, of course, like, I can play, like, a random view arena or some event like this, and someone shows up and they cheat against me, and that's that. And they're just doing it to get a rise out of me, or they're going to be able to tell their friends they won the game, whatever. I mean, it's not really. I mean, it is a big deal, but it's not a big deal in the bigger picture. So I think that with Kramnik, it's just the thinking that people are going to do it this way. It's just silly. You're going to cheat to win, or you're not going to do it at all. Like, if you cheat for 2 moves and you lose a game, and then you do it in another game, like, the risk reward isn't there for anybody at all.
In your opinion, when you play somebody, because obviously if you play like an 1800, you'll know they're cheating in literally 1 move, maybe 2. I mean, there's like...
I mean, I'll know in the seat probably within the first, like, 10 moves of the game.
No, I mean, if they cheat randomly. If they don't cheat...
I see what you're
but
saying.
if you're just playing, and then at some point they find a move, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
And that's like when you have that moment, right? But if you're playing somebody who's, an IM 2850 on chess.com, does it take, you think, a little bit longer? Like, do you need a sample size of maybe 5 moves during the game? Right? Because like you said, they're not going to cheat for 1 move to beat you. They want to beat you. They're going to cheat for a certain amount of moves.
I mean, I think ultimately, yes, you have to have a big sample. I think you also have to look at the end result and how it occurred. So, like, because this is another sort of issue with the whole cheating thing is that if someone cheats for 5 moves, but let's say they're playing me or they're playing Daniel Naroditsky, and let's just say a 3-0 game specifically, we'll probably be good enough that we can keep the game going for a while, and then they'll eventually blunder at the end of the game because, I mean, our mouse skills are so good. But definitely you need a much bigger sample size. I think trying to say 1 move, that's not enough. I think you have to look at the overall result and just the quality of the victories against the players, things of this nature. I mean, I do think that it does happen probably in Title Tuesday, but I think that ultimately, like, the cheating probably is much worse at lower levels where there's no actual impact whatsoever.
Yeah, we see it a lot. We see people make accounts and post like, oh, I've played 300 games. I haven't been caught. And I am fascinated that there's no auto detection, but I guess at the same time, if millions of people are playing chess every day, it's a little hard.
Yeah. You better be Google or somebody.
Yeah,
like,
I don't
really good systems.
I don't really think that's possible.
Yeah.
I guess a couple of fun ones for you. If you could be like top 3 in the world, 27, 90 in the world at something else, what would it be?
Top 3 in the world at something else, definitely be tennis.
Tennis?
Tennis for sure, yes.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about tennis, but I didn't know if it would be a sport or, I don't know, it could be like the best commercial real estate agent or something. Those guys make money too. It's
Yeah, probably tennis as far as sports go. Otherwise, I would say something probably in tech, like something in AI specifically, where the future is always changing, and to be on the cutting edge of things like that would be amazing.
You have something you read a lot or are interested in that you keep up with? I know you like to talk stocks on the stream, but is there something that, we all need to invest, but is there something a little bit
Yeah, I mean,
different?
I would say that in general, I try to read like autobiographies of people. Like right now, I'm reading one on Andre Agassi, for example. So I try to read books along those lines that have like more personal stories to see people who are very successful and how they got there. Or I listen to also like interviews a lot, like with Bezos, people like that too.
I don't read much because I don't have a huge attention span at the moment. I can't. I gotta get
Nobody
back
does.
to it. Yeah, no, it's really bad actually. But my wife got me to read Trevor Noah's memoir. So if you want, after the Agassi one, highly recommend. It's very good. You probably won't read it and feel like you need to. You didn't grow up in South Africa. It's a little bit of a different kind of memoir. It's not like how he built.
Maybe, but I'd make, actually, it's funny you should say that, because I was thinking about streaming, and I was going to say, like, I think there's a reason that we were the two most successful, actually. And I think I can only speak for myself and not necessarily for you, but I would say that, like, a lot depends on how you grew up and what you internalize. And, like, for myself, even though I was very successful as a chess player, I always remember the early days, long before that, when it's like my mom was struggling as a single mother, or even when Sunil, my stepfather, would spend basically most of his money to send my mom and I off to Europe to play tournaments. And that sort of dedication that they had and sort of not taking things for granted, I think played a huge role in terms of my ability to consistently stream every day and like work towards something more, even when it wasn't a major thing, just because I enjoyed it. And what I was going to say about you, I mean, like, of course I can't speak for you, but I have a feeling that like you were in a situation where like you went to school, you tried to play chess, you tried to coach chess, all these things, and I think that you had these experiences. So like when you're doing something like this, you realize just how amazing it is and how successful you can be. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like we're the only two who do it day after day consistently.
Yeah,
only two.
I don't, it's. I never really thought, because I do get asked a lot, like, how do you do it 4 years straight? I don't play, obviously. I don't play. I do the whole different thing. It's probably ingrained deep in me. Like, I'm not very close to anyone in my family. I've talked about this quite a bit, like my mom or my dad. Sorry, guys, but I've said it, a lot. I'm just not. It's just the way I was, brought up. But I'm very close to my grandparents, who came to the States at 40 and quit PhD level education to be a seamstress, to work with, to be a home attendant. Like, they had to completely rebuild their life with nothing. I mean, they came here with like a suitcase per person, and that was it. Not here, we're in Canada, but the U.S. And maybe somewhere deep down, yeah, it's kind of ingrained, like not take anything for granted. And I think we're similar in the sense that we've had a good amount of success, but we're not these influencers in Balenciaga sweaters at influencer events. Like,
right.
I just do my own thing. Yeah. You do your own thing, like with playing and with the content creation. And in that sense, yeah, I
almost like the American dream, I guess, in a way. Like working hard, not taking anything for granted.
Yeah. There's kind of like a weird arc, I think, in a lot of families, maybe like who are experiencing this. They come here, they get themselves up, and now the kid is born into privilege in the sense of like, how does the kid then do even better?
Right.
And it was a complete miracle. Like, I went to college to be a full-time professional and go to. I once was going to corporate events. You tried college for a semester. You decided to go back to chess, but I was fully set on college. And then in college, I just thought, let me try to teach some chess. And it's a little bit of fortune, a little bit of good luck, but you obviously also have to work super hard at it. So. Yeah, everybody's doing their own thing. There's a lot of chess channels now that do a whole bunch of stuff, and some play in person, some make like instructional content. It's kind of interesting to see, and it is a little bit weird though, because we went from riding the wave up to, like, at least I feel this way, we now have to keep it going. If we stop.
Yes.
Like, the ecosystem is kind of dead. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from anybody else, but do you feel that way?
I would say, like, of course, over the last, like, year, I've heard many ways of trying to, keep a chess boom going or trying to improve things. And I feel like the biggest thing that, and maybe this is the most important thing in some terms, if I can try and give back more, is that, like, the players who are up and coming, they understand how important social media is.
Yeah.
And they try to build some profiles, because it is very true that I feel like at the moment, if tomorrow, like, you and me, we go to Niagara Falls and God forbid we fall off the rail and we just die, or like Magnus is there too, it feels like the world is over. So, Not.
Oh my God. I thought maybe like the internet goes out for a few weeks, but all right. Yeah, we fall into Niagara Falls. All right, I gotta finish my will. Oh my God, all right.
But I just feel like ultimately, yeah, I mean, it's so much of it is held up really by the three of us, you, me, and Magnus, of course.
Hey, it's me again. Just wanted to quickly jump in here and add a little bit of context because I was watching the interview back, we were editing it, and I felt like right around here we pivoted quickly, we sort of topic changed quickly, and watching it back, I want to clarify something very important. The point that I was not, that really neither of us was trying to make, is the fact that Magnus, Hikaru, and myself are somehow the entire chess ecosystem. The point that I think Hikaru was trying to make there was the fact that if he and Magnus just vanished, or let's just say retired, that's a scary proposition. And so we need the next generation of players, the next generation of these young talents to connect to the audience, to build fan bases, to generate a level of interest. And there can't just be this fascination with Magnus and Hikaru, which we do see in YouTube thumbnails. In my own YouTube thumbnails, right? We see this a lot. The Magnus, the Hikaru, the Hans Niemanns, like these are the guys that get a lot of views. We briefly mentioned, Hikaru mentioned Anna Kramnik, but there's a lot of excellent content creators. Over here, there's obviously Kramnik, there's the BESTSELLER sisters, Eric Rosen, Daniel Naroditsky, just to name a few. In India, I mean, Samay is doing a great job, but ChessBase India, I mean, my God, Sagar Shah is like changing the chess journalism game completely. So I think the point that we were trying to make there, it goes beyond us big three. Like we're definitely a big three, but there's a lot of chess content creators out there, and we are now responsible for pushing this game to new heights, but the next generation has to be ready to take over. And just like in sports, right? Like in tennis, you got the guys like Alcaraz, you got Sinner, right? You got Medvedev, you got all these great young players. You need that next gen of chess players to generate the same level of excitement and interest. So we will see if guys like Gukesh, Prague from India, Keimer, Nodirbek, if these guys can do this type of stuff, because we're not, I'm not going to do YouTube forever, and Magnus and Hikaru might be retiring soon, right? So I think that was the point that was trying to be made there. Just to clarify. A lot of great people in chess doing a lot of really great things. But what is next for the future? I don't know. Good thing I don't have to answer that question right now. Let's get back to the interview.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think one of the biggest driving motivations for me right now is to try and keep it going as much as I can, for as long as I can, certainly. And hopefully there will be people who rise. I mean, I think there's so many people who are successful, like Anna Kramnik, for example, amongst others. And yeah, I just hope that as far as the professional end goes, like, whether it's FIDE, whether it's chess.com, they try to understand how important this is if they want the game to keep growing, and it not just be centered around a handful of people.
Yeah, at the end of the day, also, there's two sides of the whole thing for me. Chess is a very specific activity where 4 generations of a family can enjoy it together, so it's kind of a no-brainer that it does get really big. And then on the other side of things, why does any sport or any media grow? It's like money. Like if there's money to be made at the highest level, more money to be made with sponsors, with gambling. That's a huge one in every sports league now, which is kind of, it's a little maybe fortunate, unfortunate, whatever.
I mean, I think that's another point that I would say also, though, is that a lot of people have this perspective of chess, like there's the right way and the wrong way. And growing up, I played a lot of Blitz. There were many people who said like playing Blitz online or playing Blitz in person, it's very, very bad. It's not going to help your game whatsoever. There's this very straightforward, methodical approach that you're supposed to do things one way. And I feel that a lot of the top players now, they're so focused on chess alone, and they worry that if they spend time on these other things, it's going to detract or take away from their chess. But I actually think, for the most part, as long as everything is balanced, it's very, very beneficial. But most people, I think, view it as something that if they do it, they're probably not getting there's going to be no return right away. And then also, maybe it'll hurt their chess. So I think there's a very fine line and balance that you have to walk. But I do hope top players, especially the juniors, start to realize this. People like Vincent, for example, I think coming from a Western country like Germany, trying to build that profile, because ultimately the personalities are what will bring people. And just a funny story, I played the Bundesliga in Germany about a month ago, and I think I said this on my stream too, but I was there and I played Anand in one of the critical rounds, and the audience was massive. There were many people who were there just because there was an article about me competing. And after the game, Vishy was telling me, he's like, I've had to sign more autographs and take more pictures here than I've ever had to take in like the 20 years of playing the Bundesliga combined.
Oh, wow.
And I think that sort of speaks volumes to how if people come out to watch chess, that will make a difference, and that will potentially lead to more sponsors.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is very special. You've definitely increased the amount of people who've had to sign things for, take photos. I saw in the lobby, like there was just people.
Happens. Well, it happens to you too, I'm sure. I mean, that's maybe the only downside, actually, is I said this too, is one of the greatest things I felt about playing chess professionally pre-pandemic is that I would get recognized a lot in Germany for whatever reason. But like in the U.S. or elsewhere, I could just literally go to any store, go get food, do whatever, and just be nobody. And ever since then, it's quite the opposite. I mean, when I go through airports anywhere, almost always someone recognizes me. And so there's, that is a little bit of a downside. 'Cause sometimes you don't want to be recognized everywhere, but that is the price of fame.
Sometimes
it's been worth it.
Like one of my funniest. I have a pretty funny story, and I'm sure it's the same. Like, you're not always in the mood to talk to people. Like 8-9 times out of 10 on the street, you're like happy to talk to people. Like one time, Lucy and I were having it wasn't even like an argument. We were just like bickering about something, and some dude running by on the street, we're carrying bags of groceries. Dude's like, "What's up, Levi?" And I'm like, "That's not my name." And he just like ran away, like, and then she was like, "You would have never said that. You wouldn't have been so like mean to him if we hadn't been bickering." And I was like, "Well, you know what? Like, get my name right, all right? Like, you get called like Hikaru, or you get called, yeah. I'm just like, it's not my name, dude. Like, it's but it's definitely funny, and there's the whole downside to being known. You got to be a little bit more secretive and protective and things like that, and you kind of have to like behave in public. If I ever eat a burger while waiting for a plane, I'm like, if I get it on my face, I look stupid. Someone's gonna like come up to me, and I've done some dumb things in public, like spilled stuff on myself, and someone wants a picture or whatever. It's kind of funny. You ever play anybody that smells bad?
I have, yes.
Okay, we don't have to give names, but like,
It was a Russian grandmaster. He's about like he was over 2,700 at one point. I think usually around like 2,680.
Too many details. We're gonna find someone's gonna figure it out.
Strong grandmaster. It's well known though. It's well known.
Oh, I see. Is it a distraction?
It wasn't that big of a deal. I think it's more he didn't wear deodorant. That's all.
Okay.
So.
I played a tournament once, and I was playing an older guy, and there was a really gross smell coming, from around, and I was like, man, this old guy, he's like, can't believe he's not wearing deodorant. It's summer and everything. And then like a round later, I played next to a guy who I played next to when I was playing the old guy. And I realized it was the young guy. Like the teenager wasn't showering, and the old guy was great. I felt so bad. I didn't say anything, but I was sitting like, oh my God, this is terrible. Yeah, you got to wear deodorant. That's like a big thing. And handshakes are kind of fun, yeah? There's like, who's got the best handshake at the elite level?
I think Magnus probably is the best handshake objectively. I mean, there are others too, but his is the one that stands out the most. And of course, there's a meme about the best handshake ever between him and me. So there's some video on YouTube.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Well, there's some guys that like stand to shake hands, which is a big thing.
Yeah, actually, Magnus does that most of the time. Usually, I would say like 90% of the time he arrives late to the game. So whoever he's playing is sitting down, and then he arrives and he's standing up when he offers them the handshake. But there are other people who are very polite, like David Navarro from the Czech Republic, who like if his opponent comes, he stands up and he bows a little bit, and then he shakes the hand. Yeah. So it just depends.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the person. I'll let you get back to the grind, but I never had a chance to ask you what would be your price to ChessBox?
To ChessBox, it has to be high because there's a chance that I get knocked out.
Right.
I don't have my capacities, so. I mean, it's probably something like 10 million around there. Something around.
That's what Magnus said. So
yeah, that's about what it is. So you're saying that's
no, I'm not saying. I'm just saying
what it is. Yeah,
I'm not saying. Now I'm saying we can't organize that because it's too much money. We gotta scale it down a bit.
Yeah, that's what I would say, somewhere around there. I mean, I don't really know how dangerous boxing truly is.
It's bad.
It's hard to judge, but I feel like if it's two complete beginners, then maybe the chance of damage is fairly low. But no one's ever at the same level, and I think we've seen that even in some of the chess boxing events. Like even when they start training and they're supposed to be beginners, some people are just much more naturally gifted. So
it's different. It's different because you compete and you're still doing very well a lot. And I think if you go to competition, you get like knocked out. That's what I'm really concerned about. it's not a good look, right? Like if any
Right,
elite
that's
sportsman,
true.
like it's always a bad look. It's always a bad look in any sport when somebody has this like steep drop off like that. So anyway, there's a lot of hype around it, but I don't think any of the people's favorite personalities are gonna ever do it. Except we'll just send Andrea Botez out constantly. She will be the chess boxer, and
Well, but like that's a good example. I mean, she boxed. She spent much more time, I think, than Michelle Carr, and
Yeah.
and basically. But the thing is the background, because Michelle Carre had boxed a lot before, like, and she's maybe not boxed, but she's a natural athlete. Like, she was still better, even though I think she probably trained less objectively, I think, than Andrea did. She was just much better.
yeah.
So I think it's hard to ever find a chess boxing match that's really going to be balanced. But I mean, we'll see. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Hikaru, pleasure as
Yeah.
always.
No problem.
I'll let you get back to the grind, and thanks for joining me.
Yeah, welcome.